Hello everybody, it's Mrs. Kenny here. I am going to be your teacher in year 5, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a bit of a change from being in year 6, but I'm really looking forward to working with Mrs. Jackman again and can't wait to meet you all for real. So this little video is just for you to get to know who I am and a little bit about me, so that you're not, when you come back in September, it's not too much of a shock to the system, I guess. So I've been working here at Stimson Avenue for the last 4 years. This will be my 5th year when I start back in September. And things that I love are English, reading, making up poems on the spot. I know some of you have been to my improv club. I love improvisation. It's my hobby that I do outside of school. I also love making up songs and just being a bit silly sometimes. So I'm originally from the northeast of England, which you can probably tell from the accent. And I've been teaching now, goodness me, a very long time. So I've been teaching now for 16 years. Can you believe it? I know, 16 whole years. So I have a lovely cat called Tabby. I thought he might have jumped up and joined in. He usually does when I'm on the video, but he's hiding away at the moment. But I'll probably share with you a little picture of him. Normally when we meet up, I would have played a few games with you. We would have done a little bit of getting to know you, which we will do in September. But I also like to read a story. So I'm going to read you a little story. I'm going to read you my favourite ever book. And my favourite ever book is this one here. It's called The Wolves in the Walls, and it's by Neil Gaiman, who is an amazing writer. And this type of book's kind of called a graphic novel. And that's because it's got some really good illustrations as well as the writing. I'll try and show some as I go along. Okay, I've not had to read. I've read one book to video before for my year 6s. So, but this one's a bit bigger than the last one I was reading. So we'll just see how we get on. So there you go. And I've got to remember to point it in the right direction. So there you go. The Wolves and the Walls by Neil Gaiman. As you can see, it's got some very interesting artwork. Lucy walked around the house. Inside the house, everything was quiet. Her mother was putting jam into homemade jam into pots. Her father was at his job playing the tuba. Her brother was in the living room playing video games. Lucy heard noises coming from inside the walls. There were hustling noises and bustling noises. There were crinkling noises and crackling noises. There were sneaking, creeping, crumpling noises. Lucy knew what kinds of things made noises like that in the walls of big old houses. There are wolves in the walls, Lucy said to her mother. I can hear them. No, said her mother. There are no wolves in the walls. You must be hearing mice, I suppose. Wolves, said Lucy. I'm sure it's not wolves, said her mother, for you know what they say. When the wolves come out of the walls, it's all over. What's all over? Asked Lucy. It, said her mother. Everybody knows that. Lucy picked up her pig puppet doll that she'd had since she was a little baby. I don't think it sounds like mice, she said to her pig puppet. In the middle of the night, when everything was still, she heard clawing and gnawing, nibbling and squabbling. She could hear the wolves on the walls, plotting their wolfish plots, hatching their wolfish schemes. In the day, Lucy felt eyes upon her, watching her from the cracks and from the holes in the walls. They peeped through the eyes of paintings. She went to talk to her father. There are wolves in the walls, she told him. I don't think so. I don't think there are, Poppet, he told her. You have an overactive imagination. Perhaps the noises you heard come from rats. Sometimes you get rats in big old houses like this. It's wolves, said Lucy. I can feel them in my tummy. And Pig Puppet thinks it's wolves too. Well, you can tell your Pig Puppet, began her father, and then he asked, why am I asking you to tell her anything? She's just a puppet. Lucy patted her Pig Puppet's head so she wouldn't be offended. Anyway, you know what they say about wolves. You can join in, everybody, said her father. If the wolves come out of the walls, it's all over. Who says that? Asked Lucy. people, everybody, you know, said her father, and he went back to practicing his tuba. She was drawing a picture when she heard the noises again, a scrambling, a rambling, rustling in the walls. There are wolves in the walls, she told her brother. Bats, he said. What, you think it's bats? She asked. No, I think you are. And he laughed for a long time at his own joke, even though it had not been a particularly good one. I am not bats, said Lucy. I am telling you, there are wolves in the walls. Firstly, there are no wolves in this part of the world, he told her. Secondly, wolves don't live in walls, only mice and rats and bats and things. Thirdly, if the wolves come out of the walls, it's all over. Who says? Asked Lucy. Mr. Wilson at my school, said her brother. He teaches us about wolves and things. And how does he know? Asked Lucy. Everybody knows, said her brother, and he went back to doing his homework. The next day, the noises were louder. Oh, we have to do something about these mice, said her mother. Pesky rats, said her father. I'll call someone up about them in the morning. It's bats, I know it is, said her brother happily. I shall assure that tonight I sleep with my neck exposed, in case one of them is a vampire bat. Then, if it bites me, I shall be able to sleep. I shall be able to fly and sleep in a coffin, and never have to go to school in the daytime again. But Lucy did not think it was bats or rats or mice. She shook her head at this sad display of ignorance. Then she cleaned her teeth and kissed her mother and father and took herself off to bed. The old house made no noises that night. Oh, I don't like it, Lucy told her pig puppet. It's too quiet. But soon enough, she closed her eyes and she was fast asleep. In the middle of the night, there was a yowling and a bumping and a thumping, and the wolves came out of the walls. Oh no, said her mother. The wolves are coming out of the walls, shouted Lucy's father, picking her up and running down her stairs with his best tuba in his arms. It's all over. They shouted her brother as he fled down the stairs beside them. The family went out the back door and into the garden. They huddled at the bottom of the garden that night. The lights were on in every room of the house. Back in the house, they knew that the wolves were watching their television and eating the food from the family's pantry and dancing wolfish dances up and down the stairs. We should go and live in the Arctic Circle, said Lucy's father, where the houses are made from walls of ice and snow, and there's nothing but polar bears and seals for hundreds of miles. When the wolves come out of the walls, there's nothing else you can do, said Lucy. We must go and live in the Sahara Desert, said her mother, where the walls are coloured tent silks that flap in the hot wind, and there's nothing but camels and desert foxes for thousands of miles. Ugh, said Lucy. I think we should go and live in outer space, said her brother. We could live in an orbiting space station with metal walls and lights in them that blink and flash, and nothing but foozles and squussocks for billions of miles. What are foozles and squussocks? Asked Lucy. Outer space things, he told her. They have lots of legs, except for squussocks, who don't have any legs at all, but they are friendly enough. I don't want to live anywhere that's not my house, said Lucy. And I left my pig puppet behind. We can get you a new one wherever we go, said her mother. Now let's try to get to sleep. It was chilly at the bottom of the garden, and Lucy missed her pig puppet. She'd be all alone in that house with those wolves, she thought. They could do dreadful things to her. So Lucy crept back up the garden, quieter than any mouse, and slipped up the back stairs and through the back door and into the house. Lucy was standing there in the little hall at the back of the house when she heard some wolves coming down the stairs. They had been eating jam and toast in front of the television and were coming back for some more. Where could she go? What could she do? Quick as the flick of a wing of a bat, Lucy slipped into the wall. She crept up through the house on the inside, through the downstairs, up the middle, and into the wall of her bedroom. There was a huge wolf. There he is. Fast asleep on her bed. He was wearing her socks, 2 on his back paws, 1 on his ear, and 1 on the tip of his tail. And he was snoring very loudly. Lucy pushed open the picture that hung over her bed and climbed down, carefully, quietly. And she picked up her pig puppet from the floor and gave her a hug. Snored the wolf, fast asleep. Quiet as a shadow, Lucy climbed up to the top of her old doll's house, and from there to the top of a chest of drawers, and from there to the mantelpiece, and behind the picture, and back into the walls. It's kind of nice here in the walls, Lucy thought. Oh, I was worried sick about you, Lucy said to her pig puppet, and squeezed her very tightly. Through the walls crept Lucy, and back into the garden. Where have you been? They asked her. I had to go and get my pig puppet, she told them. I told you I would have bought you a new one, said her mother, one that was pink and not going grey. That was why I went, to get back my pig puppet, said Lucy, and she went back to sleep, cuddling her pig. The next morning, Lucy's mother went to work, and Lucy's brother went to school, and Lucy and her father sat at the bottom of the garden. He practiced his tuba and read travel brochures. We could go and live on a desert island, her father told them that evening, over a dinner of hamburgers and French fries and little apple pies with astonishingly hot middles, which Lucy's mother had bought them on the way home from work. We could live in a grass hut with grass walls on an island in the middle of the sea with nothing but goats on the island and nothing but fishes on the sea. We could live in a hot air balloon, said her mother. We could live in a tree house at the top of a very tall tree, said her brother. Or we could go and live back in our house again, said Lucy. What? Said her father. What? Said her mother. What? Said her brother. What? Said the Queen of Melanesia, who had dropped by to help with the gardening. Well, said Lucy, there's a lot of space in the walls of the house, and at least it isn't cold there. And what about the wolves? Said her father. Well, they are in the house, said Lucy, not the walls. Lucy's mother and father and brother grumbled and frowned. Still, none of them wanted to spend another night sleeping at the bottom of the garden. They tried sleeping in the shed, but it smelled too much of lawnmowers and of the fertilizer they used for the rhubarb. So they crept back up the stairs, up the back steps, through the back door, into the back hall, and into the walls. We must be very quiet, said Lucy, but the wolves were making so much noise that no one could have heard them anyway. The family crept through the walls of the house, peeking out through the eye holes of paintings and through the cracks of things. There were wolves watching television and eating popcorn. They had turned up the television as loud as it would go. They had spilled popcorn all over the floor where it stuck to the unfinished slices of jam and toast. There were wolves dashing up the stairs. There were wolves sliding down the banisters. Some of the wolves had taken the family's nicest clothes and had put big holes in the back of them for their tails. The family went to sleep in the walls. In the middle of the night, something woke them up. The wolves were having a party. They were singing and dancing and telling jokes. One of the wolves was playing her brother's video game and beating all the high scores. 2 of the youngest of the pack of wolves had got into the pots of Lucy's mother's homemade jam and were eating it straight from the pot and smearing it onto the walls. The biggest, fattest wolf of all was playing an old wolf melody on Lucy's father's second-best tuba. Oh, my jam, my walls, said Lucy's mother. My video game high scores, said Lucy's brother. My second-best tuba, said Lucy's father. Right, I've had enough, said Lucy. There wasn't much space between the walls, just an old broken chair. Lucy picked up a chair leg. You know, I've had just about as much as I can take of those wolves too, said her brother and her father and her mother. Each of the family picked up a broken chair leg. Ready, said her mother. Ready, said everybody else, and... Ah! Howled the wolves. The people have come out of the walls, and when the people come out of the walls, it's all over. Round and round they ran, gathering up their most treasured possessions. Flee, they shouted. Flee, 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 for once the people come out of the walls, it's all over. Down the stairs went the wolves, scurrying and hurrying and tumbling over each other in their hurry to get out of the house and out to get away. Whose idea was this anyway? Moaned one of the wolves. And the wolves ran. And they ran, and they ran, and they ran, and they didn't stop running until they got somewhere where there would never be any people in the walls who would come out in the middle of the night whooping and singing people's songs and brandishing chair legs. And whether they went to the Arctic Circle, or the desert, or outer space, nobody entirely knows. But from that day to this, those wolves have never been seen. It took the family several days of cleaning up to make the house look anything like it had before the wolves came out of the walls. But eventually, everything was back the way it had been before, except for Lucy's father's second-best tuber, which had sustained severe jam damage. So, Lucy's father sold his second-best tuber and bought a sousaphone instead, which he had always wanted. And everything went back to normal. Until Lucy noticed something funny. She heard rustlings and scratchings and squeezings and creakings in the old house. And then one night, she heard a noise that sounded exactly like an elephant trying not to sneeze. She went to her pig puppet. Do you think I should tell the rest of them, she said, that we have elephants living in the walls of our house? I'm sure they'll find out soon enough, said the pig puppet to Lucy. And they did. And there you go. That is my book. That is my favourite book to read to my classes. So I will read it again to you in September, so you can see the pictures a bit more close up. Well, it's been lovely to say hello to you. I hope you're all having an absolutely lovely weekend. And I hope that you continue to work hard. Doing your homeschool learning, or if I see you in school, say hello and have a really lovely summer holiday and stay safe. And I will see you in September. So goodbye for now.